This song is called Neelix's Restaurant, and it's about Neelix and the restaurant. But Neelix's Restaurant is not the name of the restaurant. That's just the name of the song. And anyways, that's why I called the song Neelix's Restaurant. You can't get anything you want at Neelix's Restaurant. You can't get anything you want at Neelix's Restaurant. Walk right in when you end your shift. Just a couple steps off the turbo lift. You can't get anything you want at Neelix's Restaurant. Now, it all started 2 seasons ago. It was on 2 seasons ago on Kessa's birthday, when Harry, Kim, and I went up to visit Neelix at the restaurant. But Neelix doesn't live in the restaurant. He lives in his quarters nearby the restaurant on deck 3 with his fur fly Alexia next door to his girlfriend. Ugh, Kess. And living in those officers' quarters like that, he's got a lot of room, much more than on his old jalopy. And having all that room, seeing as how he used to be a junk trader, he decided that he could just bring aboard all the old scrap off his ship. So we got up there, we found all the garbage in there. We decided it'd be a friendly gesture for us to take the garbage down to the scrapyard we just passed. So we took half the tonnage garbage, put it in the back of the Delta Flyer, took phasers and doodads and instruments of destruction, and headed on towards the space dump. Well, we got there and there was a signal buoy and an automated subspace message saying closed for repairs, and we had never heard of a dump closed for repairs before, and with tears in our eyes we flew off into the system looking for another place to put the garbage. We didn't find one until we came to a little moon, and on the dark side of that little moon there was a Kazon training ground, and in the middle of that there Kazon training ground there was another pile of garbage. And we decided that one big pile is better than 2 little piles. And rather than bring that one up, we'd decided to beam ours down. That's what we did, and flew back to Voyager, had a birthday dinner that couldn't be choked down, went to sleep and didn't get up until the next morning when we got a comm request from Officer Tuvok. He said, "Kid, some Okla found your service number on a comm bitch at the bottom of about a half ton of garbage and just wanted to know if you had any information about it." And I said, "Yes, sir, Officer Tuvok. I cannot tell a lie. I put that comm badge under that garbage." So after speaking to Tuvok for about 45 minutes on the comm channel, we finally arrived at the truth of the matter and said that we had to go down and decontaminate the garbage, and also had to go down and speak to him at the security office. So we got into the Delta Flyer with the phasers and the transported doodads and implements of destruction and headed on toward the security office. Now friends, there was only 1 or 2 things that Tuvok could have done at the security office. And the first was he could have given us a commendation for being so brave and honest on the comms, which wasn't very likely, and we didn't expect it. And the other thing was he could have bawled us out and told us never to be seen driving garbage around the vicinity again, which is what we expected. But when we got to the police officer's station, there was a third possibility that we hadn't even counted upon, and we was both immediately arrested. Badges stripped. And I said, "Tuvok, I don't think I can pick up the garbage with no comms." He said, "Shut up, kid. Get up to the back of the bridge." And that's what we did. Sat in the back of the bridge, and Chakotay drove to the, quote, "scene of the crime," unquote. I want to tell you about the Starfleet vessel Voyager out in the D-Quad where this happened here. They got 15 decks, no crime, and some made quees, but when we got to the scene of the crime, there was all the senior officers and 3 Kazon vessels being the biggest crimes of any Starfleets in the quadrant, and everybody wanted to get in Neelix's Good Morning Voyager story about it. And they was using up all kinds of cop equipment that they had hanging around the equipment locker. They was taking self-space scans, footprints, particle traces, and they took 27 8x10 colored glossy hollow images with circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one explaining what each one was to be used as evidence against us. Took scans of the approach, the getaway, the northwest corner, the southwest corner, and that's not to mention the aerial holography. After the ordeal, we went back to the brig. Tuvok said he was going to put us in the cell. Said, "Kid, I'm going to put you in the cell. I want your scarves and your pips." And I said, "Tuvok, I can understand you wanted my pips, so I can't order that crewman to let me out. But what do you want my scarves for?" And he said, "Kid, we don't want any hangings." I said, "Tuvok, did you think I was going to hang myself for littering?" Tuvok said he was making sure Tuvok was, because he took out the toilet seat so I couldn't hit myself over the head and drown, and he took out the toilet paper so I couldn't clog the toilet and flood the brig, draining down the force field and escape. Tuvok was making sure, and it was about 4 to 5 hours later that Neelix... Remember Neelix? It's a song about Neelix. Neelix came by and with a few nasty words to Tuvok on the side, bailed us out of jail with the scarves that had been turned over to him, and we went back to the church, had another birthday dinner that couldn't be beat except for having less leola root, and didn't get up until the next morning when we all had to go to court. So we walked in, sat down, Tuvok came in with the 27 8x10 colored glossy PADDs, and that stands for pads, with circles and arrows and LCARs on the back of each one, sat down. Man came in, said, "All rise." We stood up, and Tuvok stood up with the 27 8x10 colored glossy pads, and the third-party arbiter walked in, sat down with the seeing eye Targ, and he sat down, we sat down. Tuvok looked at the seeing eye Targ, and then at the 27 8x10 colored glossy pads with circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one, and looked at the seeing eye Targ. And then at the 27 8x10 colored glossy pads with the circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one, and began to cry, cause Tuvok had came to the realization that it was a typical case of space-blind justice, and there was nothing he could do about it, and the judge wasn't gonna look at the 27 8x10 colored glossy pads with the circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one explaining what each one was to be used as evidence against us. And we was fined 50 scarves and had to pick up the garbage in the heat, but that's not what I came to tell you about. I came to talk about the penal colony. They got a building down in New Zealand, at the penal colony, where you walk in, you get injected, inspected, detected, infected, neglected, and selected. I went down to get my physical examination for the court-martial one day, and I walked in, I sat down, got good and drunk the night before, so I left and felt my best when I went in that morning, because I wanted to look like the all-American kid from Earth. Man, I wanted to feel like I wanted to be the all-American kid from Earth, and I walked in, sat down, and I was hung down, brung down, hung up, and all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly things. And I walked in, and I sat down, and they gave me a piece of paper, said, "Kid, see the psychiatrist, room 604. So I went up there, I said, "Shrink, I want to fly. I want to fly. I want to see planets and stars and comets and doing high G maneuvers, racing to be a test pilot. Fly. And I started jumping up and down and flapping my arms, and we fly, and he started jumping up and down, and we was both jumping up and down and yelling and flapping our arms, fly, and my dad came over on me, sent me down the hall, said, "We'll see about that part." Didn't feel too good about it. And I proceeded on down the hall, getting more injections, inspections, detections, neglections, and all kinds of stuff that they is doing to me at the thing there. And I was there for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. I was there for a long time, going through all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly things. And I was just having a tough time there, and they was inspecting, injecting every single part of me. And they was leaving no part untouched. Proceeded through, and when I finally came to see the last man, I walked in, sat down with the whole big thing there, and I walked up and said, "What do you want?" Well, the captain said, "Kid, we only got one question. Have you ever been arrested?" And I proceeded to tell her the story of Neelix's restaurant Massacree that she darn well did know, with full orchestration and 5-part harmony and stuff like that, and all the phenomena. And she stopped me right there and said, "Kid, did you ever go to court?" And I proceeded to tell her the story of the 27 8x10 colored glossy pads with the circles and arrows and the paragraph on the back of each one explaining what it was and to be used as evidence against me. And she said, "Kid, I want you to go down and sit on that bench that says Group W now, kid." And And I walked over to the bench there, and there it was, Group W's, where they put you if you may not be moral enough to rejoin Starfleet after committing your special crime. And there was all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly-looking people on the bench there. Maquis, war criminals. Maquis, war criminals. Maquis, war criminals, sitting right there on the bench next to me. And there was a mean and nasty and ugly and horrible crime-type guy sitting on the bench next to me. And the meanest, ugliest, nastiest one, the meanest Maquis of them all, was coming over to me, and he was mean and ugly and nasty and horrible and all kinds of things. And he sat down next to me and said, "Kid, what'd you get?" I said, "I didn't get nothing. I had to pay 50 scarves and pick up the garbage." He said, "What were you arrested for, kid?" And I said, "Littering." And they all moved away from me on the bench there, and the hairy eyeball and all kinds of mean, nasty things, till I said, "And creating a nuisance." And they all came back, shook my hand, and we had a great time on the bench. Talking about crime, mother stabbing, father raping, all kinds of groovy things that we was talking about on the bench. And everything was fine. We was drinking blood wine and all kinds of things, until the captain came over, had some paper in her hand, held it up and said, "Kid, this piece of paper's got 47 words, 37 sentences, 58 words. We want to know details of the crime, and any other kind of thing you gotta say pertaining to and about the crime. I want to know arresting officer's name and any kind of other kind of thing you gotta say." And talked for 45 minutes, and nobody understood a word that she said. But we had fun filling out the forms and playing with the pencils on the bench there. And I filled out the Massacree with the 4-part harmony and wrote it down there, just like it was, and everything was fine. And I put down the pencil, and I turned over the pad, and there on the other side, in the middle of the other side, away from everything else on the other side, in parentheses, capital letters, quotated, read the following words. "Kid, have you rehabilitated yourself?" I goes over to the captain. I says, "Captain, you got a lot damn gal to ask me if I've rehabilitated myself. I mean that just, I'm sitting here on the bench. I'm sitting here on the Group W bench because you want to know if I'm moral enough to rejoin Starfleet, just flying a damn ship, after being a litter bug." She looked at me and said, "Kid, we don't like your kind, and we're gonna send you fingerprints off to San Francisco. And friends, somewhere in San Francisco, enshrined in some little folder, is a study in black and white of my fingerprints. And the only reason I'm singing you this song now is because you may know somebody in a similar situation, or you may be in a similar situation. And if you're in a situation like that, there's only one thing you can do, and that's walk into the shrink wherever you are. Just walk in, say, 'Shrink, you can't get anything you want at Neelix's restaurant,' and walk out. You know, if one person, just one person does it, they may think he's really sick and they won't take him. And if two people do it in harmony, they may think they both got aphasia and they won't take either one of them. And 3 people do it. 3, you can imagine. 3 people walking in, singing a bar of Neelix's restaurant and walking out. They may think it's an organization. And can you imagine 50 people a day? I say 50 people a day walking in, singing a bar of Neelix's restaurant and walking out. And friends, they may think it's a movement. And that's what it is, the Neelix's Restaurant anti-Massacree movement, and all you gotta do is join in and sing it the next time it comes around on the guitar. Well, it's the bouzouki, I ain't so good on the guitar. With feeling. So we'll wait for it to come around on the guitar here and sing it when it does. Here it comes. You can get anything you want at Neelix's restaurant. You can get anything you want at Neelix's restaurant. Walk right in when you end your shift. Just a couple steps off the turbo lift. You can get anything you want at Neelix's restaurant. That was horrible. If you want to end the Dominion War and stuff, you gotta sing loud. I've been singing this song now for 20 minutes. I could sing it for another 25 minutes. I'm not proud or tired. So we'll wait till it comes around again, and this time with 4-part harmony and feeling. We're just waiting for it to come around is what we're doing. Alright now. You can get anything you want Neelix's restaurant. You can't get anything you wanted. Neelix's restaurant. Walk right in when you end your ship. Just a couple steps off the turbo lift. You can't get anything you want at Neelix's restaurant.